Hey guys. Okay, so just as I mentioned previously, this is just like a wrap up video for me to go through all of my kind of notes that I've made during summer bowl type training and sessions and everything we've had. And just to give you guys some feedback about what I saw, what I liked, some things we need to change, and some things that we can't have at training ever again, and things which reared their heads again, which we kind of banned in the last couple of years as well. So just to kind of re-emphasize those things as well. Rather than going with the traditional shit sandwich, I'm just going to go with all the shit to start with to get everything off to a flying start. A couple of things happened during training over the weeks, which were things that one of them fitness for punishment happened a few times when teams had lost drills. Then, as the losers had to do, press ups or whatever, and that's something we kind of got rid of a couple of years ago, and I was quite surprised to see that reappear, and on more than one occasion as well. We don't punish losing at all. Whether it's in training, whether it's to do with games, with scrimmage or anything like that, we celebrate victories. We don't punish defeats. It's just a mindset, and it's just something that I just don't want to see again. There are too many things linked with the psychological side of things that studies have shown, and to be honest, I'm just not a huge fan of it, full stop. I don't think it brings anything. I don't think anybody works harder knowing that they don't have to do 10, 20 press-ups or, do laps of the field, anything along those lines. So in future, we're going back to not doing that, full stop. The other thing that I noticed on more than one occasion is, and this is a rule which has been around pretty much as long as I can remember, is we don't wear and any other team apart from CUDA. So obviously plain stuff is fine, as long as we're not wearing any kind of collegiate team or NFL team or anything along those lines. So in future, once again, in any kind of future training sessions, if we can be cognizant of that, and if you do end up turning up in a beanie or a jumper or a hoodie or anything, don't be surprised and don't be upset if I ask you to turn it inside out, okay? Because it's just a long-term ongoing thing. We're the coaches of a program. We are part of that program. We are representing that program, not any other one. So during training sessions, visits away, game day, all that kind of thing, we only ever wear either CUDA or nothing. We will get into discussions about game day attire and things like that closer to the season, but just for now, let's just remember that and stick to it in future as well. Another thing which kind of bugged me a little bit was players not getting reps during game time. And one of the things, and this is part of a bigger problem I feel happened over the kind of the whole processes, and I'll talk about a few little things that came out of it, is it was treated much more of like it was a do or die, win or nothing, glory to the death kind of game at the end of it all. It was still practice. And I know the first half of the game that we had, I think it was 4 players, 5 including the gentleman who couldn't get his Bristol pass, so he doesn't really count. But we had players who, for the most part, stood around for an hour at a practice session doing nothing. I don't think that's acceptable. I don't think that's fair. And I do think that coaches should have managed their reps better. I think perhaps we got lost in the competitive element as coaches, when we should have been promoting the competitive element between players and not between coaches. Another thing I feel fed off that was coaches' want and almost insistence in time at times to change, to introduce, or to redevelop plays as well. We came into it with 2 standard playbooks to work from, but there were plays being run and there were plays being installed which were not part of that as well. And so once again, for me, that feeds back to us taking the wrong side of it as coaches, not realizing that it's practice. And once again, yes, we should have been, promoting the competitive element between players, but we should be looking at it from a top-down situation and understanding these things as well. Just other little things, but I think one of the things which was a bit of a nightmare, but in normal season will be perfectly fine, is just there are information gaps in all of our knowledge, myself included. And I think we overcoached parts of football and we undercoached parts of football as well. Mostly because we're forced to. I think it was a great learning experience for all of us. And I think when we're back to our specialised positions, and we know everything that we want to do for that position, and we've got nothing but time for that position as well, it'll be much better. But there were just certain things which were I was very cognizant of throughout, which if I was to see the same kind of errors in plays and movement and those kinds of things, I'd be a little bit more concerned in season or even pre-season as well. But like I say, I don't think that's too much. I do think that come a proper full season, when we have all the time with our positional groups, all the time, that kind of thing, that those little things will kind of disappear. One of the things that's coming out of this, and I'm continuing to develop and look into myself, is how we what's the right phrase? How we look at running the team from a top-down situation. And what I mean by that is we just like when you've got players on a squad, we have players that do absolutely everything and more that is asked for them. And then you've got players who do everything. Then you do players do nothing but just turn up, and then you've got players who just turn up on game day. Or at least you've got levels of that. And I think you'd all agree that we're all, as coaches, bought in at different levels as well. Some of us are quite happy just to turn up with a few drills that we've been a part of for a few years. Some of us will, maybe on the way to training think of a few things, maybe catch a YouTube video, and some of us, go much further than that. And so I'm kind of trying to look into how we can structure kind of input and training and responsibilities within the program based off of those that want to put the effort in, those who do put the effort in as well. I don't know how that's going to play out at the moment, but it is something that I'm, continuing to look at and to take on board. And there's nothing wrong with being at any level of that kind of commitment to the program. We've all got lives, work full-time jobs, have families, have different priorities in what we like to do with our spare time. But one of the things I am keen to do is those people that want the responsibility, those people who want to put the time in and to develop as a coach, as a positional coach, as a coordinator, as a assistant head coach, as a head coach, that we can and I can help them grow from the position they're at right now all the way up until you're biting at the heels of that next person, or maybe you find that next opportunity at a different program or whatever it is. And I'm really hoping to be able to not inspire but enable those of you who want to grow as coaches to do so. So over the summer, I'm not trying to push anything too much at the moment, but certainly, come maybe July, August time, when I start the ball rolling on pre-season or pre-season, I'm going to be kind of hoping to get together with all of you on one-to-one basis, on a one-to-one basis, on a kind of offensive basis, defensive basis, and talk to everybody and really see how I can maximize the work from the coaches, who wants to do what, and that kind of thing as well. So one of the things I would really recommend is if there's an aspect of football that you are really keen for, if it's leading a certain skill. So if you remember a couple of years ago, James took over the tackling side of things. So he did everything tackling. So if you were maybe thinking, I could lead something like that, and maybe it's blocking, maybe it's, block shedding, there's plenty of skills, football fundamentals that we can drag out of a traditional football situation and promote much higher within the program and develop as well. So if you've got something like that, or some kind of initiative that you want to take the lead on, then by all means do, and that will be a real benefit to everybody. Excellent. So that's basically all the shit stuff. And even though the positive thing is going to be a little bit, shorter, just because I can whinge for days, but I'm not great always at possibly, expanding on positives, glass half empty kind of guy and all that. I was really impressed with two aspects of summer ball. First and foremost, the development of a bunch of coaches from the beginning to the end, and I saw a remarkable difference in how both James and Ross not only handled themselves at training, but off the field as well. And I thought they really developed quite quickly through the last kind of the whole project from the beginning to the end. Ross especially, I think, Ross, you deserve a massive pat on the back. Who by the end of it, as I said, the other week to you, like I when I rewatched the film and I was editing it and everything like that for Huddle, like watching the play calls. Now, obviously, they didn't necessarily produce on the field as well as we would have liked, but looking at the play calls, I saw stories being told there. It didn't just seem like random hodgepodge and anything like that. I was really happy with how the play calling was going. And it really looked, gave me a lot of, what's the right word? Enthusiasm to see how it would look with a full 30 kids, 35 kids who had been training at a specific position, and with a one mind leading the offense as well. So I'm really kind of excited to see that as well. I think other things that we've done really well is a few coaches have really stepped up and really well taken on board and coached other areas of football which they have no idea about. Names like so Craig and Nick, for example, having never been a part of offensive line stuff at all. Nick kind of shadowed some offensive line stuff with me at Bath Spa, but both Craig and Nick took on board the offensive line and ran offensive line. Craig had never done anything offensive line, and spent the time to learn about it, learn about techniques, even talk to Lyndon, who's going to be running the offensive line next year, to see what he wanted so we could start working on that stuff with our potential guys as well. So the responsibility and kind of action that those guys took there was really was fantastic, and it's a kind of attitude that I kind of expect from kind of all coaches. I think moving forward, the expectations is going to be kind of one of our key themes moving into next year, and that expectation for myself is not just on the players but also on the coaches as well. So that was really great to see that coaches would step up and do that kind of thing. I really like that. I think on the game days, we saw that the downfall for the most part was I believe the quarterback position. I think if the red team had a more experienced quarterback, then I do believe that they'd have probably ended up winning it, which is I don't think it's any shock to Overcoach when you look at kind of how many turnovers there were, change of possessions and that kind of thing. But that's football sometimes, and I think that's kind of highlights for me the importance of this off-season quarterback project I'm currently running. And if you haven't heard by now, if it's not kind of filtered down, I've got I think it's six players who I'm going to be basically running with. We started last Monday, all the way through to next year, to the beginning of the year, where we're going to be talking all of the ins and outs of not only kind of scheme when that's finalised later in the year, but also kind of everything quarterback skills, quarterback reads, knowledge, that kind of thing. We've got Akash, who's going to come back next year, in there. We've got Callum, we've got Alec, we've got Dom, we've got the new kid, that 17-year-old whose name completely escapes me right now, who is not even at Bristol Uni right now. And then we've also got Ryan as well, who after seeing his athleticism over the last kind of 2 months or so, and his size and just his natural ability to pick things up, I asked him to throw a few balls for me and decided that I wanted him in on it as well, because I think he could grow to be something for us as well, especially after I saw him in some drills where he took over the entire offense, told his entire offensive line what to do. He told the running backs what to do, the wide receivers what to do. So he had a complete control over the whole thing, including the huddle. So he's in there as well. And with the idea is that, like I say, it's to progress these guys through the psychological side of things, through the paper kind of things, and even challenge them to go away and do kind of specific quarterback drills over the next 3 to 4 months, so that come September we can have a proper quarterback competition where we've got, I won't say established, because we've really only got one guy in that quarterback room who's going to be playing quarterback for the next 4 months. But we will have I believe, a genuinely good quarterback competition come, September time. The final product, I think, from the whole bowl was really impressive when we looked at how all of the sides of the ball would run, the two sides. I think James and Ross both had very different ways of running their team, and they were both kind of effective. And I'm taking a few things from both of them. Ross was a little bit more traditional, it looked like, with what he was doing in his splits and everything like that, whereas it looks like James was trying a few new things. And I think we'll be moving forward with a whole bunch of those different things in regards to how we run our warm-ups next year, with how we run certain verses and certain positionals and things like that. So I picked up on quite a lot there that I was kind of like, oh yeah, why don't we try that? And we're going to kind of do that in future. I think that's about it. That's the thing I had to say. Overall, though, and the feedback from the players has been really, really positive. Really, really positive. And it's something I'm planning on doing every single year now. I think doing something in the third term gives us lots of time to keep our guys engaged. I think it gives us lots of opportunities behind the scenes to add more value to the team, both for our players, but also in the eyes of the SU as well, which is going to be one of our biggest pushes off the field, is how we can create and generate more value for the SU so that we can get better funding, so we can get better facilities, all that kind of thing as well. So that bowl situation hopefully is going to run every year. So those of you that are married might want to start trying to earn husband points right now for next year, because you might need them, basically. That's about all I got for you guys right now. I didn't want to go too much into kind of how the play calling and who did what and why and all those kinds of things. I think the play calling was fine for the most part. I do think some of it sucked really bad, but those are all discussions I'll have directly with the coordinators leading us forward, because I think there's a few things that we need to change, both with how we deal with scheme, but also how we do certain things. So look forward to that, James and Ross and Craig. That'll be really good fun, I'm sure. But apart from that, if you had anything else you wanted to add or tell me, then do put it in. Send me a one-to-one. Don't throw it in the coaches group. I cannot be asked to have a 55,000 message chat or anything like that with everybody flying off the handle, which is traditional WhatsApp. But that's about it, guys. Overall, I was really happy with how it went. We completed what we set out to do, which was provide our seniors with a send-off, to provide our rookies with something to do to give them a taste of actual football. And we scored some huge points with the SU as well for putting something on. So thank you all for being a part of it. Rest up those football minds, and as soon as you're ready to get back on with it, just let me know and we can start talking about what you can do leading up to next year. And if anybody wants one-to-ones like I'm doing with the players, talk to me, let me know, and then let's discuss it as well, because I'm very open about helping you change coaching positions if that's what you want to do. I don't have any problem throwing coaches on other sides of the ball. We did it with Ross, for example, when he decided he was sick and tired of Leo's face and didn't want to coach him anymore. So if you want a new challenge coaching, fine, talk to me about it. If you're concerned about your position within the coaching staff, talk to me. If you want more responsibility, like I said earlier, let me know. Anything we can do to kind of open up a more enjoyable experience for yourselves as well, let me know, guys. That's about it. That's 21 and a half minutes of absolute joy and excitement. And I look forward to listening or reading all of your sarcastic messages about the length of it. See you later.